What's up, everybody? My name is Kier, and you are watching The Important Things That Really Matter. Today, we're going to be discussing part 4 of The Real Purpose of Dating. And specifically in this particular video, we're going to be talking about dating down. We're also going to be talking about observing the person in every particular situation. This is the person who you have determined that you want to have a long-term relationship with and or possible marriage to. And so these are the main things we're going to be talking about in this particular video. You need to go back and look at the other videos also too. There's 4 different parts of these videos: part 1, part 2, part 3, and this is part 4 of The Real Purpose of Dating. You need to make sure that you look at them in every single solitary situation. The situation I'm going to mainly be focusing on this particular time right now is observing the male or female that you're involved with their family. And the most important thing that you want to take a look at while they are interacting with their family is you want to take a look at their mother and you want to take a look at their father. Ladies, let's start with you, because I like jumping back and forth between males and females in terms of what you should be looking for. Ladies, you go over a guy's house, the mother and father's in the home. You look at the father looks like he has a big belly, look like he's 9 months pregnant. He looked like he is about to deliver twins or triplets. This is what your man is going to be looking like in the next 5 or 10 years, possibly. Also, what you need to take a look at too, is the father getting high regularly? Every time you go over there, does it look like the father's always out in the street? If the father's always out in the street and they've been living up under the same household, like your boyfriend has a mother and father that's still living in the same household, that means that the father's going to have more influence over the son. Father of your boyfriend or your fiance is running the street and running the street a lot. Guess what your fiance is going to be probably doing? So this is what I'm talking about in terms of observing them at every single solitary situation that they may be in. Is the father working? Is the father working? The father is at home watching soap operas all day long, never have a job. Every time you go over there, the person's not working. Father hasn't worked in years. This is going to give you some type of indication on whether your guy that you're involved with is going to possibly want you to take care of him. I had a friend of mine that had dated a guy, and she decided to marry the guy. And so I come to find out that my female friend told me that her marriage didn't last too long, and I think it only lasted a couple of years. And so I'm like, how did your marriage only last a couple of years? A friend of mine was telling me that, well, he didn't want to work. I said, well, what do you mean he didn't want to work? Could you be a little bit more specific? She's like, every 3 to 6 months he would get fired. So what do you mean every 3 to 6 months he would get fired? Every 3 to 6 months, her husband would get fired. I'm like, really? Then she told me too that it got to a point that he stopped looking for a job. And not only did he stop looking for a job, he just sat at home all day and was watching soap operas all day. So I was like, there has to be some sort of red flags to let you know that he was going to be like this. And so she's like, no, there was no red flags. I didn't see nothing that was going to let me know that this guy was going to be like this. She said, oh. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh. She said his father didn't want to work. There was a red flag. And the red flag was the father wasn't working. So the son, which was her husband now, the son was also looking for a woman that would take care of him also too. Basically, that she'll be his sugar mama. So what is the point that I'm making? Ladies, what the point that I'm making is that if you're dating somebody that you think is going to be long-term, or maybe even possibly even going to marriage, you need to go home and take a look at the person's father. Especially if they're up, the mother and father's up under the same roof. If they're up under the same roof, that father's going to have more of influence on the son. So if the father's not working, your husband or the guy that you're dating may not want to work either, may want you to take care of him. And you cannot sit up here and think that just because you have somebody who even has a degree, that they may not be like that. I had a friend of mine told me about her sister. Her sister married this particular guy. He's a white guy. Married this guy. This guy had a degree. He not only had a 4-year degree from a college or university, this guy also had a master's degree. So the lady was telling me that this guy, even though he was a white guy, he had a master's degree. And he just came home one day to his black wife, said, I don't feel like working no more. And so he quit his job. I'm like, what? Yeah, he just came home one day and just like, I quit my job, I don't feel like working no more. So his wife, who was a black woman, was a hairdresser. So now the wife is taking care of this guy, white guy. And he sits at home all day long and watches soap operas and doesn't work. And his wife been taking care of him for years. And so what type of effect do you think that's going to have on the children growing up, seeing their father stay at home all day long while the mother goes out there and work? And so this other friend of mine was telling me that one of the kids was in kindergarten. And so while the kid was in kindergarten, they asked the kid, hey, what does your father do? And even kids know that men are supposed to work. Even kids know that men are supposed to work. It's written in the Bible. They asked the little kid that was in kindergarten, what does your father do? Let me tell you what the kid did. The kid put his head down, said, my father doesn't work. He stays at home while my mother goes out and work. There's a important, incredible, big piece of nugget that I just gave you that will save you a bunch of time and a bunch of money. You need to go and take a look at the father. There's the father sitting up getting high. All these things you should look at, whether the guy's working, whether the father's running the street, whether the father's getting high all the time. All that is going to have an effect on your husband, your fiance, or whoever you choose to pick to have a long-term relationship with. Now we're going to jump to the men. Men, same thing I just told the ladies. You need to go and take a look at the woman's mother. The person who you're planning on having a long-term relationship with, maybe even possibly marriage, you need to take and look at the woman's mother. Because if you go over your lady friend's house and you look at her mother and she looked like she kept herself looking pretty good, pretty fit, pretty trim, then that's what your lady's probably going to be looking like. If she doesn't look bad, that's what your lady's going to probably be looking like in another 5 or 10 years. But if you go over your lady's house and you look at her mother, and her mother looks like she's about 75 pounds, 100 pounds overweight, 150 pounds overweight, in 5 or 10 years, this is what your lady's going to look like. Men, you also need to look at the mother and see, is she a woman that has a smart mouth? Is the mother a drama queen? Does she have a poor opinion of men, period? Like she might hate men or something? You need to look at all those particular factors, including how she physically looks, because the woman who you plan on having a long-term relationship with was raised up in the same household as this particular woman. That woman's going to have an effect on her, especially if it's her mother. So she might feel that her mother might be 75 pounds overweight or 100 pounds overweight, and she might feel, hey, you better accept me the way I am. And so if the mother is thinking this, what do you think the woman who you're going to have a long-term relationship with is going to be thinking? She's going to feel like you shouldn't have a problem with her being 75 pounds overweight or 100 pounds overweight or 150 pounds overweight. Look at the mother, and this is what your lady is going to look like in 5 or 10 years. Also, is the mother a drama queen? Because if the mother's a drama queen, chances are the daughter's going to be a drama queen. I watched the show. It was a reality TV show. And in the reality TV show, there was a mother and a daughter. The mother was a drama queen. The mother was loud. The mother had a smart mouth. And guess what? The daughter on the show was loud, a drama queen, and had a smart mouth. You see where I'm going here? People raised in the house, that person's mother is going to have an effect on them. So these are things that you need to be taking into consideration for somebody that you're planning on having a long-term relationship with or marriage with. Because it's going to matter. That parent is going to have an effect on that child. Now let me go to talk about dating down. Dating down. I don't really like the word dating down because it kind of sounds like it's kind of degrading in a way. And in a way it is, but unfortunately, women have been stating out loud verbally for many years that they do not want to date down. They will use the term dating down. And what does dating down mean? Dating down basically means they don't want to date somebody who's making less money than them. If the woman is making $50,000 a year, that woman does not want to date somebody that's making $25,000 a year. It doesn't really sound really good, and it really don't, because it completely does not take into consideration a person's potential. A person might be making $25,000 right now, but they may have talents, abilities, and skills which may make them a multimillionaire in the next 10 years from now. But anyway, in the times in which we're living right now, men, you might want to adopt the same attitude as a lot of women and don't date down. If you're making $50,000, just like the women, and just like the women don't want to date nobody that's making under $50,000, if they're making $50,000 or $70,000, you might want to adopt that same type of attitude also too, because it's going to affect you more if you date a person. Let's say, for instance, you date a woman. She's beautiful, gorgeous, she's built, but she's a waitress in a restaurant. She's making $25,000 a year. You're making $50,000, or you're making $75,000 a year. You're up here in terms of what you make, and she's down here in terms of $25,000. So let me ask you this question. Seeing that the divorce rate is 70%. Now, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people still think it's 50%. No, the divorce rate is 70%. That means out of 10 marriages, 7 of them are going to end in divorce. And it's been that way for the last 10 years. Let me say that again in case you didn't really hear me really good. The divorce rate is about 70%. Across the United States, it's about 70%, 70. Out of 10 marriages, 7 will end in divorce. Do you hear me? And in places such as Texas and in places like California, the divorce rate is almost 80%. 80% in some parts of Texas and California. And 80% of the divorces are initiated by the woman. 80% of divorces are initiated by the woman. And in Texas, some parts of Texas, and in some parts of California, it's 90%. So what does that have to do about what I'm talking about? Right now, what that has to do is, like, if you're a man. Now, a lot of women, they don't want to date down. They don't want to date anybody who's making less money than them. So let's say, for instance, you're a guy. You're making $70,000 a year. You see this beautiful, fine-looking woman working in a restaurant as a waitress. She's making $25,000 a year. You making $70,000 a year. Now, you decide that you want to marry her. Let's say a couple of years later, she decides, I don't want to be married no more. Because unfortunately, a lot of marriages are ended because the woman comes home one day and just say, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to be married no more. I'm bored or whatever. That's it. Okay, if you get a divorce, and chances are that you may get a divorce because the divorce rate is 70%, and it's been 70% for at least the last 10 years. So you're making $70,000 a year. The woman was making $25,000 a year. She decides she wants to get a divorce. Now, let me ask you this question: when the divorce occurs, is she gonna leave the marriage and go back down to making $25,000 again, like she was when you first met her? No, she's not gonna go back down to $25,000 a year. The courts are gonna say, oh, well, you're making $70,000 a year. She's used to this lifestyle, $70,000 a year, even though she didn't make $70,000 a year. Same thing for the men. Even though the other person didn't make that money, you did. So now their standard of living goes up. So they're not going to divorce and leave and go back down to $25,000 a year. They're going to leaving with the standard of living at $70,000. Seeing that, you may not want to date down. You might want to do exactly what women are doing and not dating somebody who's making less money than them. Also, part of the reason why a whole lot of women want to date a man that's making six figures, because they're in a lot of debt. Going back to one of the other videos I was saying before, there's some people, it doesn't matter if they're professional or not. It does not matter if they are a professional or not. Let's say, for a person is making $120,000 a year. It don't make no difference if there's $700,000 of debt. They may be getting a student loan bill every month of $1,500 or $2,000 a month from a student loan bill. So this is part of the reason why some people want to marry somebody that's making six figures. It's to bring their standard of living up and also to help them to pay the debt off. So you may have a person that might have $150,000 worth of student loan debt, or they may have $250,000 worth of student loan debt, or $300,000 or $400,000 worth of student loan debt, and that's not including the $40,000 or $50,000 in credit card debt that they have. That's not included if they have a kid. If they have a child, the child is like under 5 years old or so. The age range of children from 0 to 18 years old, it is estimated that you're going to be paying over $300,000 a year. Excuse me, not a year. You're going to be paying over $300,000 by the time the child turns 18 years old. So if that person has a child that's under 5 years old, you might as well say you're going to be paying about $300,000 if you get with them just for the cost of the child. So let's add things up. Let's say the woman has $200,000 worth of credit card debt. $200,000 worth of student loan debt. $50,000 worth of credit card debt. So now we're at $250,000. Let's say she has a child under 5 years old, $300,000. Okay, so now we got $250,000 plus $300,000 of debt, $550,000. That's $550,000 worth of debt that that person has. So you have to sit up and take into consideration, is this somebody that you want to be with that has all that debt? Because you know that when you get with this person, they're going to be expecting you to pay their debt. This is part of the reason why you may not want to date down. You may not want to date somebody that's making less money than you, especially a lot less money than you. There are a lot of people out here that don't have anything. There are a lot of people out here that don't have anything. They don't have anything because they spent the last 10 or 15 years partying and having fun. They could have gotten a degree from a college or university. They could have been certified in a skilled trades. They could have learned the skill of doing people's hair. But they refuse to do that because they want to party and have fun. So you look up 10 or 15 years of their life has went past and they don't have anything. So their goal and objective is to get with somebody who has something, which is you, so that they can take half of your stuff because they don't have anything. Do you want to be with somebody that was only out there having fun that whole period of time? So these are things you need to take in consideration while you're dating a person. Some other videos that you want to take a look at right here that's going to go on in depth, that is going to talk about reducing your costs, reducing your pain and suffering, and reducing the amount of problems that you would have if you make the wrong decision in dating the wrong person. Also, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Take a look at these videos.